You are now listening to Kindred Spirits Podcast on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Kindred Spirits here on the RFK Refugees Podcast Network. Ted here, John here.
Hello.
We are back. We took a little bit of a hiatus. I think we planned to maybe give the Spirit a little bit more coverage, but it was a difficult time for both of us. But we're back to give you a little bit of thoughts. Also to talk a little U.S. Women's National Team. We kind of maybe dropped the ball a little bit on that.
We were on national team duty, Ted. That's just what it was. Both of us were called up over the course of this break. And, you know, unfortunately for listeners, there was no Mariana Speckmeyer on the podcast front to come in and secure some points. So we are where we are. If you are watching this live, or if you're not, I guess I am doing this from a hotel room in Indianapolis. Ted is in his freshly air-conditioned apartment.
Air-conditioned.
Just very freshly. But yeah, no, I think we are, we're happy that the national team players are coming back, and we're going to talk about sort of how the Spirit navigated this. I think the last time we had a podcast was looking at the month ahead of how this was going to go, and I think we'll get into it.
Yeah, and I think we're probably our national team review. I mean, there are so many other podcasts out there. This has been talked to death. We're definitely coming late. I think what the perspective we're going to take is we're going to provide the Spirit perspective on the national team.
We have thoughts about Megan Rapinoe. We have really hot takes.
We'll leave those in, but I think we're going to come from a primary perspective of the show that we care about, which is the Washington Spirit. Let's maybe get into a little bit of the results. Obviously, the Spirit entering the Challenge Cup, tall order, trying to make it through. And I think pretty much any hopes of making the next round or getting into the semifinals were dashed fairly early on when the team suffered a 6-0 defeat to the North Carolina Courage. I think maybe I watched a little bit of the highlights of this game. Just a bad performance overall. And I think maybe I think we all kind of went into this thinking, okay, here's a chance for some players to step up, and Ashley Hatch to show, show why Vlatko was wrong. And I'll get into a little bit about what I think about what Vlatko did leaving her off the roster, considering some things that happened with the team. But here's a chance for some players to show out. And I think after this Carolina game, we're like, dear Lord, can the Spirit players just come right now? Like.
Wouldn't it be great if they didn't make it very far in the tournament and could come back immediately? We'd be the monkey paw curled, and we'll talk about it.
Boy, man, you wish on the monkey paw, man. What are you doing? But anyway, yeah. So bad result. Again, it comes in the Challenge Cup. I think maybe it was a good thing in disguise, considering the next two games. I think maybe it was a wake up call for the entire team. That hey, and maybe it was Mark Parsons being like, I mean, here's an opportunity for you guys to show me who maybe wants some minutes, who wants some opportunities out there, and you guys really didn't. Yeah, once the cavalry comes back, who's going to be left? You have a lot of players that are on month contracts, sort of replacement players coming in. That's not a performance that makes me want to really think about playing any of you all. And then they responded. They came out and got a 4-2 win over Gotham FC. Obviously, the biggest story being Ashley Hatch with 2 goals and Chloe Ricketts being the youngest NWSL goal scorer, finally getting off the mark and getting a goal scored. So, and then obviously, I think that was a good win, and that was certainly a good match. But for me, I think the one that was really for me the biggest one was, I think, on the road against Orlando Pride, team they, I believe, did not do well against the last time they played. Gutting out a result, and then Speckmeyer with an absolute blast, just an absolute firecracker at the end of that match to pull out a 1-0 victory. Like I said, I think those two games really didn't mean much. They are not games that mean much in the grand scheme of things, but I think they give you a little bit of motivation. Obviously, the women's national team has been eliminated from the World Cup. It would not surprise me if we still do not see them until September. Because I think that I think there's still also, I believe, regardless of what happens, there are still like a send-off or celebration game that's going to take place.
Oh my goodness.
I believe that's still in the cards, and that's still going to happen. I don't know if it happens right away or however it happens.
I bet Vlatko is very excited about that. I think he's really excited to get in front of home fans who really want to let him know how happy they are with the performance of the club or the team.
I do not even think that, September 21st against South Africa. So a little bit of a ways away. But very much going to happen. I think you'll have a new coach by then. So,
They could bring
uh,
Ashley Sanchez and not play her again
yeah,
for
we'll
that
get
game.
into that. We'll get into that in a minute, but,
But I
um,
just want to say from the results perspective, it's also good to look at that Gotham game as they went down 2-0 in like 12
that's
minutes,
true.
and then they just went crazy.
Mhm.
They just went crazy, and then since then it's like a switch flipped. You would have thought after the 6-0, the two goals that occurred against Gotham early, I think it finally happened for him. It just didn't hit at the start of the 90 the way that maybe Mark would have wanted. But I think that this team is in a good spot, getting those reinforcements back whenever they come,
Mhm.
whenever that part comes. I want to talk sort of about what we can take away from this sort of period with the club. Uh, Chloe Ricketts is the player, or it seems to be the player that they were very excited about when they signed. And Mark Parsons talked a lot about not bringing her along too quickly, not overwhelming her, not challenging her beyond her physical capabilities as a young person. And the thing that excites me most about her is she has a unique skill set that you don't see a lot in the women's game, where she is an offensively talented player who is also sort of a brawler and will throw her weight around. And players I don't think like to play against already. She'll get stuck in a tackle. She will get yellow cards because she's going to get stuck in. But she has the confidence to take on players in the dribble. She's going to shoot. Remember at the beginning of her career when she would shoot, like there was no power behind the shots, and it was just it just like it looked. She looked every part 15, right? Like that's
Yeah.
just how she looked. The work that they've done with her this year, and both in building her confidence and I assume her strength, she's in a really good spot. The fact that now, you know, Ashley Sanchez is still the preferred player in that spot. It's great to have gotten her these minutes in these games and get this confidence that she can be a difference maker off the bench now
Yeah.
in a real way, rather than sort of 10-minute cameos, 15-minute cameos, and we're not really expecting much of her. Now I think you can say, we're not going to give you the keys to this club yet, but we're going to expect the fire that you can bring for that however amount of time, and to sort of maybe change this game up if it's needed. I'm excited. These Spirit fans are lucky that we've got this sort of this young player who is not a national team candidate yet. So she's not going, like, she won't miss games. It's nice to have those players that aren't going to go anywhere. But she's looked every bit the part of she looks as advertised.
Yeah, I think one of the, and we'll get into this to a minute when we talk about, I think, the U.S. women's national team. I mean, one of the discussions that was happening among circles was, you know, how is Rose? We have Rose Lavelle, who's an incredibly talented player, very technical player, on the dribble, creative. How do we go find more players like that? And I think what you see from Ashley Sanchez is one of those players, and Chloe Ricketts is, those players are out there, they exist. Like Chloe Ricketts is not she's not an athletic, strong player, at least not at this point.
She's
And
got I think her low center of balance acquits her well in those battles, right?
yeah, so I
And
mean,
she comes out on top.
those players exist for the U.S. women's team. They just need to be integrated into this roster and be trusted in this roster. That we don't need to be the might or the athleticism that needs to be our main game. So, that's certainly something to get excited about with her. I was maybe a little bit skeptical of her after a couple games. I was like, she looks 15. This might be a long one. I would say from the past couple games and what we've seen, she started to, like you said, get that strength training in, really start to build that up to where she can and start to look more comfortable.
I
Um,
wanted to go full heel. I'm thinking about like the way her play style. I thought Ben Olsen for a second, and then I was
mhm,
thinking Carlos Ruiz. I'm
mhm,
thinking about sort of like the physicality of the player. Like if she gets also like uh other teams hating her and trying to like bring her down all the time and getting and sort of like the universal heel, that sort of, there aren't a lot of that, right? There isn't that
mhm,
that is not a role you typically see in the women's game, who's
mhm.
like the player who's going out to drive other teams insane. I think she has a little bit of that in her. I think that would be an interesting development in the women's game to have that as that archetype being available to a player to be like, wow, I hate playing against this person. I would very much like to tackle this person. And plus, she has the offense. So Carlos Ruiz is that's my player comp that I think of in my head.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I mean, sort of taking a step back, I mean, those are the things. I mean, we talk about, you know, what makes a successful window. I think we maybe discussed that a little bit heading into this. You know, what would be considered a success heading into this window? And I think what we really said is we want more players that we can come in and make a difference. Because once you removed Trinity Rodman, Ashley Sanchez, and Ashley Hatch from this team, offensively, it was like, I have no clue what to expect from this team. You know, Paige Mateo was a really nice early find, but she's more of a center midfield, hold the ball up, you know, maybe provide a little bit of a linking play. She's not going to be a creative force. So, I mean, I look at players like Solano, I thought also showed well. And I thought she had some good moments where she really sort of, you know, really, and considering what this team had in the draft, and I think what they've gotten out of this has been excellent. They did not have a lot of high draft picks, so it makes me even more excited. What happens once this team actually does get high draft picks? I'm not sure what their draft situation looks like. We tried to assume one time and it didn't look, but you know, considering what Mark Parsons has been able to do to sort of find, you know, players like Solano and Mateo, I think bodes well for this team moving forward.
I think Paige has suffered a little bit in this period. I think she's a player that is certainly helped by having the national team players around her on the field. I think she sort of became somewhat anonymous in some of these games, so I think she'll definitely be excited to have these players come back.
having to look for Ashley Sanchez to be the main creative force out there, for sure.
I think that definitely draws attention away from her and allows her to do her thing. Also, Riley Tanner also had a fantastic World Cup. Then the players going to come in. I wonder what kind of minutes she can expect. She was a key contributor for Panama. So
yeah, she was brought off the bench and had some moments where I think she almost had a goal. No Spirit players scored in this World Cup, but I would say of the players out there that came the closest, despite having Trinity Rodman there, I think Riley Tanner might have been the closest of some of the games I watched. I'm not saying I think probably Trinity Rodman had some chances. She was certainly maybe the next closest or right there up there. But you know, I think she had an excellent World Cup. All things considered, especially considering Panama is not a team that was expected to go far in this tournament. So
the golazo in the last game too against who's that against?
France.
Yeah, that was
wild. Also, she mentioned Tori Huster making her return back, which is certainly a welcome sight. I don't know if we really gathered enough data on her to see whether she still has it. So we'll have to. I'll be curious to see what her role is. Is she a player you bring in when you're up 1-0 and you just want to hold the game down and try to keep things settled, or does she weave her way into a starting lineup? Does Paige Mateo lose her spot? I think they play pretty similarly, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I bet she's a sub. I think for going forward.
Yeah,
for the rest of the season, but still, her and Bailey Feist coming back only adds depth in midfield. It's a good thing for this club in the run up.
Yep. And again, I think the Spirit have slipped to like down the table a little bit, but they are the table is still just as tight as always. So certainly good to have them back in. I'll be curious to know. I don't think we have any details on the returning Spirit players. I know Christy Mewis is currently still in Australia, watching her partner or good teammate or sportsmanship friend, depending on who you ask.
Hopefully, you all get that joke and do not send angry letters to the show.
No, we all in on the joke. I think everybody's in on that joke every time they're posted. It's quite funny. But yeah. So I think I would not expect those players to return. At least for this game. Maybe you'll see them in the next couple games. I'll be curious to see who returns, who wants to maybe get back at it and keep pushing. Does a player like Ashley Sanchez say, nope, I want to get back. I did not get a single minute here. I need to go show the next coach that I'm ready to rock and roll. Does the Trinity Rodman feel pretty confident in her position and say, yep, I think I'm going to take a little rest and a little break here?
Aubrey, come back. Although I got to say, Nicole Barnhart certainly improved. I was negative on her in the early couple games where the Spirit looked kind of lost. She was not commanding her box. She got better. Better. I think she had a couple years of not playing, and then was immediately thrust into every game. So I think I was probably a little hard on her. But by the end of game 4 or 5, she had it. She had.
I think it's like anything. She still goes out there and makes good saves. I think she had a couple really good saves against Orlando in particular. I think that kept that team in this game. I think obviously the moment I think maybe you're thinking about, I think the second goal is either the first or the second goal for New York is she bumbles it and leaves it right for another player.
Yep.
So certainly I think maybe again, she is 41 years old. Goalkeepers have a long lifespan, but I think maybe I feel comfortable enough knowing if, Kingsbury has a knock and we need to put her into a game. I'm not saying, oh dear Lord, it's going to be, watch out, the things could be bad. If she has to start the whole season, I'm maybe a little less improved on our chances. Not to say she still was solid, but I mean, this is not. Yeah,
it gives you a good sort of case study for why these clubs need a reserve league or something. She can't. A player cannot be expected to go like 4 years between starts and then just roll out, only having practiced and be like, "Yeah, good luck, play in the best league in the world." So her having some starts in between the last 4 years probably would have been helpful to her. But to the end, we talked about where we'd like to see this team end up. I don't think the Challenge Cup really mattered to us. We wanted to see this team develop some additional players, and I think we did that. And I think we got some confidence running towards the end, which is maybe the best case. The best case scenario would have been to advance in the Challenge Cup and have some games to play for in that way. But the second best one is where we're at. So I'm reasonably happy. And no major injuries. Savannah Kuhlman tore her ACL for the 5,000th time, I think, but that was in practice. And I don't think she had not really impacted the club so far. So Lena Solano of that sort of group, Nicole Douglas and Lena Solano have certainly been the players who have figured the most. And Lena Solano has been the one that I think was most creatively impactful over this break. So I'm like you said, happy to see her develop some and get into the depth chart.
Yeah. So I think it sets the team well. They will have their next game coming up on the 19th. I believe that's in Houston. I'll have to go back and check just to be 100% certain, but they do play Houston on the 19th. So we'll see who comes out. I'm sure there'll be some press availability where maybe we can get in some questions. Yep, it will be in Houston. So team Houston currently 9th in the table. So like I said, the Spirit, if in case keep an update on the way the standings are, the Spirit are currently in 5th. But they are 2 points back. 2 points back on North Carolina. So there is 2 points between 1st and 5th right now. So it is incredibly tight. This team will have their players back, and I think they will be ready to make a charge. And I think, like you said, the second best thing is I think they gained some depth out of this tournament. They gained play.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just saying. I think they gained depth, and I think they gained guys now off the bench. I'm not like. I'm like, well, I think Solano would work best in this situation. Let's bring her out and let's do this. Or let's bring Chloe Ricketts out here. I think this game's a little bit too tight. So I don't think we really knew that coming into this break.
We got an opportunity to know the players a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to draw. You were talking about how tight it is at the top. Last place is 15 points for KC Current in 15 games. I think DC United would chew their arm off for a 1 goal per or 1 point per game sort of average. Like that is not equal last place in MLS. The league has some serious parity. KC, I think, has turned it around a little, got 2 wins in 5. So for a last place team with only 15 points, they're turning things around. San Diego Wave as I'm looking at the form guide, basically. North Carolina has turned it around. We talked about them in the beginning of the year, having lost to Bina as being a club that was in rebuild mode and not really competing for it this year. Once again, making a fool of us all is making any projections about any of the NWSL clubs. You will be wrong. Angel City sitting in 10th. So just, other than Portland being around the top, everything else is a crapshoot.
Yeah. I think you're seeing.
Never speculate.
You're seeing the teams start to eat towards the top. But again, it's still incredibly tight, regardless of how you slice it. With these teams, so
one win from 5th to 1 tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun. I think it's gonna be a fun conclusion of the season once the World Cup gets out. I don't know what the boost. I don't think there's gonna be maybe much of the boost that the NWSL wanted. But
I would say maybe a negative boost. I think there might be like they hopefully they didn't run too many ads about NWSL during the World Cup. They should want to separate themselves from it. Like, I don't know about that. All we know is there's a league in the United States, so you guys should watch it. I don't know about what just happened for the last month.
But to say that they still have the Olympics coming up next year, I think you're going to see a different national team. I'm still, I feel like there was a lot of fatalism around the U.S. Women's National Team. Let's get into it maybe a little bit. A lot of people talking about how, oh man, this is the end. The United States, and I was quick to remind people. I guess the women did go out and they made semifinals back in '99. But I mean, I was looking. I'm like, this team has had moments where they were very much not invincible. And those moments came, 99. They didn't make a World Cup or win a World Cup or make a final from, they won it in 99, and then it was 01, 03, 07. And then finally in 2011, they remade a final. I think they won some gold medals in the middle of that. So, certainly they were good there. But I mean, this team has had moments where they did not have good, I would say good or convincing World Cups. It does feel a little different. It does feel like, I think from this World Cup, we've seen a lot of teams struggle too. Canada comes off a gold medal. They get completely bounced out. Brazil gets bounced out in the group stage. France, Germany also ends early. Germany also, I think, had it even worse. So, I mean, we're seeing a changing tide. And I think what really struck me about this Women's World Cup is I think a lot of other countries have started to realize that, well, the best development is still in the U.S., and we can go out and we can go find players that have grandmas who were Irish, or grandfathers that were or Panama, or I think in this case, I think in Riley Tanner's case, a parent that was from Panama, and we can say, look, we know you're not going to be on the national team. How would you want to come and maybe go to a World Cup and play that way? So I think we saw that was all across the board, and it's still something that has happened. I think you're seeing a lot of countries look at this as sort of a shortcut to getting high quality talent in and winning. And I think there is some controversy around it. Going after Riley Tanner probably doesn't know the struggle that a lot of these Panamanian girls have brought in, but I think she sounds like, for me, she came in with a really humble attitude.
Seems like they're glad to have her. I think, naturalization is nothing new in the men's game.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is certainly a very reasonable way to expect. I mean, Riley Tanner, they're not bringing in ringers. Marissa Shiva and Riley Tanner from the Spirit are both players. Riley Tanner has gotten like 5 minutes for the Spirit. Marissa Shiva has become a contributor. I think, we'll talk about the U.S. specifically. The pundits are saying a lot of stuff that is true, a lot of stuff that's not true. I think it's undeniable that the rest of the world is getting better. I think you can say whatever you want about what that means for the U.S. I think to all the clubs that you just named not making it out of the group stage or not advancing, who are overwhelming favorites, tells you that the variability that it's increased means that the overall floor of the teams that are making, other than there's been a few that were pretty bad, but the floor has raised. You're getting professional outfits because you're getting professional leagues across the world that are taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. I'm not tremendously, listeners of this show, both of this and United 96 will know I'm not a huge national team fan or aficionado or follower, but like, I think it's more exciting in the sort of neutral position that I'm in, where, and Ted pointed out that it's not been this way forever, but in recent history it has been. I think it's more exciting if the club doesn't enter every tournament as the overwhelming odds-on favorite, where, if they don't win the championship, they failed. Like, I think it's better overall for the game that, that there's stakes. You're going in, you're saying, we didn't do it last time. We got new players, we got a new coach, we got a new system. Who knows? We're gonna do our best. I think that will also obviate some of the criticism that people felt about whatever the mentality was going in, if they thought that players like, we're gonna get this in a walk, because we have gotten it in a walk before. Now you haven't. So now that's out the window. That can't be either a mindset or a perceived mindset, because it's gone. Invincibility cloak has been pierced.
So I kind of I think there were some parallels I kind of felt about this tournament that I think were in the air when this team qualified in 2015 and they were heading into the World Cup. I think, you looked at Megan Rapinoe is a legend, and I'm very sad that this is kind of the way she goes out. There are a lot of people out there that act very disingenuously towards her. By the way, the Fox Sports coverage has been the worst thing about this World Cup. There are good people there doing some good work. I love JP Dellacamera. I love some of the color commentators that they've hired. The studio work with Carly Lloyd and Alexi Lawless. And then that dude goes on X or Twitter or whatever we're calling it right now and just says some of the most absolutely awful stuff. I mean, I think I sat through like analysis, and there were some people there that were providing some thoughtful analysis. They were breaking down, here's how this goal happened. And Alexi Lawless just went off the most unbelievable dribble. Like, it was like he wasn't even really breaking anything down. He was just saying things in the game. And it's just like, I for the life of me, I do not, I want something to come out or something to rip away the rights from Fox, because they are just, it's awful. It's terrible. The Qatar stuff was bad. This stuff was worse. And it really did feel like, it felt like to me with this World Cup, it was just all built around the U.S. women's team. And that's all. And once they're out, it's like, all right, bare bones. We're going to keep the studio. We're going to keep everything going, but we're not going to do anything. And that to me is just like, when I would watch ESPN produce World Cups, yes, the U.S. was still there. They were still, a main focus. When their game was coming up, they would cover it, but they educated you about all the other players. They talked about everything else. And Fox still does that, but it doesn't feel like the effort is there now that the women are out. And they're still like, it's like they don't know what to do with themselves. The commercial that they ran was just all women, U.S. women focused. I hated it. I was just like, I hated it. And sort of like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, I get it. And the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but it just shows me this is what the entire World Cup's going to be about. And it's not going to be about the fact that this is a tournament of nations of different players coming together. And the U.S. is a part of it, and they're a major favorite, but they're not like the primary focus. And now, they're out in the round of 16. So you have to almost like talk about some of this. And there have been some great games. Colombia versus England was an incredibly fun game to watch. Colombia also, a team, I think that, what I've been most impressed with is that right now it's still very Euro. You have England, Australia, sort of your more perennial powers, but you had Nigeria, and you had Nigeria was a penalty kick shootout away from advancing over England, which would have been amazing. You had Colombia take a lead against England. Like, you had teams that stepped up in a big way, and now we're going to have a new winner of the World Cup. So I just feel like there's a lot more to that. And I don't want to get off on that tangent, but to me, it's just, I feel like maybe I'd be more interested in a lot of the more of the older over the shoulder stuff if it wasn't Fox producing it, because it's just been so bad. And again, the way Carly Lloyd went after the women's team for taking pictures with fans was just so awful. And then the way Rapinoe's been treated by a section of the media run by also the same guy that owns the same network that is also producing a lot of the propaganda we see in this country, and then also owns the sports network that hosts the Women's World Cup. It's been bad. It's been awful. And I feel so sorry for her that this is the way she has to go out. And also the people saying she missed the penalty kick on purpose is just so blindly ridiculous.
Who said that?
Oh, there have been plenty of people that have talked about it. No one's serious, I will say, but like a lot of the detractors, a lot of people that don't like Megan Rapinoe, are the same ones that are like, oh, I think she missed it on purpose. Like, no, she didn't. Stop it. Shut up.
It's dumb. I'm not going to give too much oxygen to the whole thing. I think it was unavoidable. It
felt inevitable, which was weird. It did feel like it was like it's going to happen, whether it's Sweden or Japan. It feels inevitable.
Specifically with her, I think that it just a player at the end of their career that has, through not a full part of like her had become polarizing for, and I take it out for whatever it's worth. I thought the dumbest thing about it, like, to your point where you can tell it's people reveling in their preconceived biases. The fact that she was like, the laughing after the missing it, that is so, like, it was so obvious what that was to anybody that does not been brain poisoned. Like, it's quite clearly like being overwhelmed by absurdity, right? By like the cosmic joke that is the end of her career, and that's the way she's like handling that like horrible thing to happen to her and the club or the team. People who are like like she doesn't care, it's not serious. Like, this is like an intentional misrepresentation that is solely about like your political identity. It's not anything about, and people have said already the annoyance of having people who actually do not like the sport, do not like the team, do not like, and are just opining. That happens, right? That happens during World Cups all the time, men's, women, all happens all the time. I think, there was, Alexi Lalas was talking about sort of wanting people to be happy about the team, like, be proud of the team. They don't want to, and like, some people don't want to have politics. That's fine. But I think there's the fine line. The fine line is like between rooting against someone because you don't like their politics versus just not paying attention. That's an option. Like, in life, I think that's a valuable thing. Like if you don't like somebody, don't don't root for them to fail. Don't watch something just to tear someone down. Just, it's not your thing. Fine. Doesn't have to be. Nothing. Everything isn't for everybody. And I think it's a lot better off when people just let things that they don't agree with, just elide them. Go do something else. Cut your grass. Play something else. But it was to get back to sort of the play on the field. Like, it was after the Vietnam game, a 2-0 squeaker.
3-0.
Was it 3-0?
I think it was 3-0.
You might be right. If you just watch the knives were out for Vlatko almost immediately on player selection with Luke Williams, Ashley Sanchez. Our axe was Ashley Sanchez. I don't think the rest of the country was as agitated about
fans
it.
We were certainly there.
We were mad.
Yeah, I can understand. I feel like it's sort of a missed opportunity from a perspective that it just kind of felt like Vlatko, and apparently, from what we're told, I forget the player. There's a player that was injured that I think Vlatko really liked, and I think he fit the style he wanted the team to be. I think Vlatko suffered, and his undoing. I think honestly he is closer to Greg Berhalter than I think a lot of people will want to admit, even though I think people intertwine Greg Berhalter and Vlatko. Vlatko, I think, is even more. It was like, this is the system I want to play. This is how I want to do this. And it was like, there was, once Mallory Swanson went down, it was like not a thought of, okay, how do I shift the team now? Because she was going to be a major part. And she was, for a while there, when she was lighting up, I'm like, oh man, she's going to light up this World Cup. Like, she was, I think if she's out there, I do not think this team gets eliminated the way they do. Honestly, truthfully, she was incredible leading up to this World Cup. But I think he just did not. He was so entrenched in how he wanted to play, and I think what we saw from Greg was Greg shifted things around or did things differently. And so I don't get the comparison between the two, because I think Greg was willing to admit sometimes when things didn't go wrong, and it felt like in this World Cup it was so clear. The Vietnam game, maybe not, but certainly after the Netherlands game, and certainly after the Portugal game, it was like, this is not working. But it's almost like at that point, it's too late to try to make something up. It was too late. And I just wish maybe, early on, maybe you throw out and Ashley Sanchez, you're not getting much offensively. Try her out there. Maybe give her an opportunity. Give her a chance. Give some other players a chance. I mean, also you look at, I think she brought, was Alana Cook is the younger player, sort of the shock addition. And she left out Ashley Hatch. This team struggled with finishing. They actually, I think I saw like a breakdown of their stats between this World Cup and the previous World Cup. They did up until the round of 16, and actually like their average expected goals was maybe a little bit less. They still generated plenty of chances. Like, they still played well. It was just so clear that there was a missing just like killer instinct. And I feel like there were like Ashley Hatch would have been one of them. Ashley Sanchez would have been one of them. He talked about wanting Sanchez and Rodman to develop a better partnership, and then did not play them a single minute. And it's just I don't know. It felt like just a bad World Cup. I don't think he was the right one to call. I feel like this was a World Cup where there was an over reliance on older players, and I feel like it's honestly his. I feel like there was a missed opportunity to really sort of move on from those players, and I feel like it should have. It honestly, in my opinion, it should have happened after the Olympics. After the Olympics, it should have been immediately. We gotta start working on the next, and I think it's a tail in, you know. And you look at who, I mean, Megan Rapinoe did not have a good World Cup. She was bad. She was not dynamic. Her service was awful. She came off the bench, and there were maybe some other players maybe you throw in to do something different. So, and that was that was the maddening thing for a lot of people was, I think it was like the one sub. I think it was Netherlands and Portugal. He made one sub, and I think Sweden as well. Maybe Portugal, he made some more subs. But I know there were 2 games definitely that he makes one sub in that entire game.
Ben Olsen-ass substitution patterns.
And that just shows, like, I mean, you bring a roster, you have 5 subs you can use. I don't know. It really felt like this still feels to me like a missed opportunity. I feel like this team could have still come in with the talent. The talent is still there. Anyone, Hercules Gomez talking about, whoa, like, oh, you look at our list of top 50 young players or women's players and how many of them are on the U.S. national team. I'm like, dude, just you be quiet.
oh yeah, the very scientific ESPN FC ranking.
That was so ridiculous. I just some of that discourse was just so. And it doesn't mean I'm saying that I think that I think everybody's wrong when they say the world's gotten better. We've talked about it, the world's gotten better. I think the U.S. could still be good. They could still be dominant. I'm curious to see what the future looks like. And there's an Olympics coming up. I'll be curious to see what they do with it.
Do you think it? So Vlatko had no plan B, right? He had one strategy and tried to square peg round hole when he had injuries. Do you think there's anything to the fact that maybe this isn't the case with the U.S. women's team because they seem to be playing all of the time because they make so much money. The federation does, so they got 30 games a year. It feels like. Do you think it's something about international coaching that you don't get enough time with players that you can really have, different systems that you can switch and plug, and you just have to pick one, drill it, and just hope that it works out? Or do you think it's just a coaching failing on this particular case?
I think it's a coaching failing. I think it is also, I think there's something to the effect that this was a coach that the players wanted. And I think based off everything, they earned the right to maybe make that decision. I think they should still definitely have a say. But I think there is an argument to be made. Sometimes what you want is not what you need, in a lot of cases. What I will say, I mean, you don't want to hire somebody that everybody hates, because then you get bad situations. But I think there's a middle ground you can find.
You could see the pendulum swing probably here with the federation about players coach versus maybe something else.
One thing to consider is the sort of changing atmosphere of women's soccer in general, in that I don't know, I think the contract situation might still be the same where they are on the national team, they still get paid a yearly salary from the national team. But there is very much a difference in that now they are primarily contracted through their clubs now. Like there's no subsidy going on with the NWSL. And I think that maybe made things a little bit easier to dictate certain things, to keep certain players healthy. Now they feel like they probably can't do that because it's like, well, now they have a contract with Portland. Portland's paying them. They want Chicago. Chicago wants Valerie Swanson out there when she's healthy, out there playing week in, week out. They want Christian Press out there. I think it stems more from, I think we talk about a team in transition. I feel like anytime you try to keep sort of your toes in both waters, and, well, we're going to be a team of transition, but not too much, you run into issues. And I think that's ultimately the downfall of this team. They did not maybe look at some other options, and then maybe also then try those options in better moments to maybe get something better. I also think, they suffered some catastrophic injuries. I think this tournament's different if Mallory Swanson's out there. So, we'll see. The Olympics are going to be fascinating, and I think this team could easily come out and suddenly, put other players out there and go out and win the Olympics. I think that could absolutely happen. So, and then everything's back, and the U.S. is back. It's the classic GIF of like, we are so back. So, yep. All right. Anything else you want to add to this game? Sid just didn't get me minutes. I think that's a shame. I hope the next coach comes in, can see her talent, and she can get an opportunity. Just as a player, you want to bring in a player that can do what Roosevelt does. She can do that. And I think it's an incredible waste of her talent not to be out there. Kingsbury didn't get me minutes. That's probably expected. I don't think Alyssa Nair was the problem, so that's probably going to continue.
Do you think Trinity Rodman has her stock hurt at all going forward with how the team performed in general?
I thought she was one of the better players out there. And listening to the discourse, I don't think anybody's pointing that out. I think actually maybe there's a little bit of disappointment with Sophia Smith. I think Sophia Smith came out, shot out of a cannon, first goal, first 4 minutes of the tournament, and then really her weaknesses started to show. I think you had Trinity Rodman. I think of the Sweden game in particular, Trinity Rodman looked really good. She was one of the better players out there for the team. I don't think her stock is hurt at all. I think maybe you're talking about maybe a player who got her stock hurt the most of the Spirit players. I would say it is undoubtedly Andy Sullivan.
Although her best game of this tournament was the last one.
Yeah. So I think it's a tournament. I think it's going to be interesting what's going to happen with the new coach that's running, because I don't think Vlatko is going to be there. I'm surprised, actually, it has not already been announced that he's gone. Maybe they're waiting to see, honestly, whether they want to keep the director of soccer operations, so they need to go out and hire somebody for that role. World Cup is right around the corner, so it's like you can't even really take a break.
Right.
All right, folks. I think that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We were going to continue to try to do the show. Wow, we did an hour of this, and we're doing an hour. We're just keep writing along.
That's what happens when you take a little bit of a break. You just have a lot of words you want to get out. That's what we get. You got a little words to get out. Absolutely.
All right, folks. Again, Kindred Spirits, check us out. Patreon.com/RFK Refugees. You get both shows right here all in one feed. All lots of fun. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. We'll check you guys next week. Vamos.